Basketball Manitoba podcast, we have Murray Brown. He's one of the most accomplished coaches in Manitoba history, coaching for over 34 years and more than 1,100 games as a head coach with the Oak Park Varsity girls team. During that time, he won 7 provincial titles in 1998, 1999, 2004, 2013, and then he did a three-peat from 2017 to 2019. He's been named MBCA Coach of the Year 7 times and MHSAA Coach of the Year in 2013. He retired from coaching at Oak Park in 2022 and is currently an assistant coach with the Winnipeg Wesmen Women's team. Murray, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Darcy. I really appreciate you having me on. I always enjoy watching the podcast, so it's nice to be here.
Yeah, you told me that you were actually a listener, so you're like a regular, which is great. When Adam asked you, were you like, fine, what the heck took so long?
No, I must admit, it caught me by surprise, and it took a while to figure out that I was comfortable doing it. So I don't know if I deserve to be on it, but I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Come on now. I just read your bio, and obviously your former colleague, Coach Casano. Oak Park, just generally as a basketball school, has been like the basketball school, at least in my time, right? And read your bio there from 1998 up until the mid, 2010s and into the 2020s. Just before then, both the men's and women's team have just been absolutely unbelievable at Oak Park, and so it's quite interesting for you to actually say that, knowing that if we stack you and Coach Casano's careers against each other, yours is actually a no shade, Coach K, but it's better, right? It's a better high school career. So for you to say that, it obviously says that you're a very humble guy, very modest person. And I appreciate you deciding to actually say yes to do the podcast. And I know the listeners do as well, because it's really cool to hear your story. And so I'm excited to kind of dig in and see, learn more about you.
I must admit, I was so fortunate to coach in the same school as Randy. And as I said, I listened to a lot of the podcasts, and I think in every single one of them, his name has been mentioned, and for a reason. Like, he is such a influential person in the basketball community, but beyond the basketball community, he's just a once in a lifetime mentor for so many of us.
Yeah, that's 100%. There's a few people that I've encountered in my time, and Coach Casano is one of them. The fact that I still call him that, he never actually coached me before. But actually, I take that back. He has coached me, but he wasn't the head coach. But when certain people talk or they interact with you, never met them before, and they give you a feeling, they make you feel special, right? He has that ability, and it's a very unique talent, I would say. And I remember my first interactions. I didn't know the guy, and somehow he's making me feel great.
I absolutely remember my first encounters with him.
Let's hear it.
I came from a fairly small town in Quebec when it was Baie-Comeau, Quebec. And I moved here in October of 76. And Randy had just started at Oak Park in the fall of 76. And I went in there, and I came from Baie-Comeau High School. And when I moved, it took the graduating class from 8 to 7. It was such a small school.
Wow.
And then I moved to Winnipeg and went to Oak Park, and it was a giant school. It was 330 students at the time, but for a guy coming from a really small school to urban school, it seemed really big, and I was super nervous and just wandering around the halls, and I have an encounter with this young new teacher, and he right away saw that it was a little bit uncomfortable. Sat down with me, talked to me, asked me questions, and just by the end of the day, I felt so comfortable in the school, and I can never thank him enough for that experience. I could have been lost in the school. I was pretty shy at the time, and he just made me feel so comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a superpower. We all have someone, and
It's a
man, it
superpower.
is absolutely a superpower. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I got to ask then, like you said small town Quebec. How did you end up at Oak Park? Like, what's the story that brought you out to Winnipeg?
My father worked for the Canadian Grain Commission, and there was a big port in Baie-Comeau. And then well, the middle of his career, not towards the end of his career, towards the middle of his career, he took a transfer from Baie-Comeau to Winnipeg, and we just moved into a side by side in Charleswood. It was still just a growing community. It was fairly new, lots of new developments out there, and Oak Park was the local school.
Got it. Got it. So then you were how old at that time?
I was 16.
Okay. Okay. So I don't know what Oak Park, did it start in the 10th grade at that time, or was it?
Yeah, it started
So this was your
grade 10. Yeah,
you're in there, it's 10th grade, first day, like and that's such an awkward time already. Never mind coming
yeah.
from another city and everything like that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's just such a change in culture. And I didn't know a whole lot about Oak Park when I about Winnipeg when I moved here. I just remember when we first found out we were moving to Winnipeg. I talked to our social studies teacher at Baie-Comeau, and he goes, Winnipeg, it's the city with a moat. And I'm going, what do you mean a moat? And sure enough, it was just the floodway.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's really all I knew about Oak Park before I moved here. I had known about Winnipeg when I moved here. Right.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So you came out when you were 16. Obviously you're an accomplished coach and you've been in the game for so long. Did you like play basketball at all, or are you one of those like played multiple sports? Like, what was your background with sport and basketball?
Yeah. My basketball career lasted 1 year. I was actually in grade 11 when I moved here,
Okay,
and I it was back in the time when grade 11s could play on the junior varsity team. I
that
went,
was a
and
thing.
I had
I
never
didn't know
really
that.
played basketball, but I was a decent athlete. And then, so I tried out for the JV basketball team, which was coached, of course, by Randy, and
Mhm.
made it and played that 1 year. And then I wanted to play beyond that, but I was a pretty good runner at the time. And our track coach, well, Bill McDonald was a tremendous track coach, and he said, "Well, you can either play basketball or you can run with us." And I was a better runner than a basketball player, so I made that
Got it.
decision, and it worked out well. But I did miss out on the aspect of the playing basketball and being a team member, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the obvious question here is, so you ran and everything like that. You obviously loved basketball, you liked it, and you had a desire to play when you're young. But you went to Oak Park as a student. After you graduated high school, where'd you go to university? Like, what was the process of you getting back to Oak Park and then now coaching basketball?
Yeah, it's well, I went went to University of Manitoba for phys ed
Okay.
and went through there, and then I decided after muddling around for more than a few years there, I decided I wanted to go into education. And one of the things that they look good on your resume as you apply for education is having some experience leading. So I ended up coaching two years at Churchill High School when I was there. So the first year I coached the grade 9 boys, and the second year I coached the varsity boys. And so just wanted that on the resume. But then I really enjoyed it, and um, figured that this is I might want to follow through on this. And then so I graduated from education, and in October of the year that I graduated, 1987, I think it was, I got a my first call as a substitute, and it was for a half day at Oak Park High School. And so I went back there, And of course, a lot of the people who were there when I was a student were still there. One of them being Randy. So we touched base again, and they were looking for a varsity girls basketball coach. The boys program was obviously established, and they were having problems finding somebody to fill the varsity girls role. So Randy asked me, and then I was hooked.
So
uh,
that was it. Like
that was
he
it.
said, "Hey, we need you to coach," and you're like, "Okay, cool." You did it, but
Yeah.
you weren't necessarily working there at the time. You were a sub like for that first year, and then you were coaching.
Yeah, and obviously being a coach there, I became a um uh one of the first calls for substituting there,
Of
and
course.
then I ended up getting three consecutive one semester terms there, teaching all
Okay.
kinds of stuff. Right, it was marketing and social studies and science and everything. But it worked out. I coached during that time, and then Ed Husak, who was the principal at the time, was going to leave the school, and one of the last things he did before he left the school was he offered me a permanent contract there. Uh,
Wow.
so I was lucky. I was really lucky that um, it worked out. It just
Yeah,
worked out to end up in a place which felt like a home.
for sure, for sure. And
Yeah.
so, what year did you? How many years after did you get the permanent contract?
So I substituted for a year and a half, and then I did those three consecutive
Okay.
semesters. So by the third year of doing it, that is when I did get the permanent contract.
Okay. So coming full
Thank
circle,
you.
you get to go back to Oak Park.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, you started off the podcast talking about Coach Casano and you remember the first meeting you had when you were a student there. So it must have been a bit of a surreal experience to then now be like there as a like you're now a teacher, you're now a coach, but Coach Casano's there alongside you. You said some other people were still there as well. Um, you were pretty much coaching for 3 years before that and subbing everything like that. Uh, did it was it in your plan? So like, did you always want to coach, or did this kind of just happen? Hey, I'll jump in at Churchill, great, and then all of a sudden you're like, I like it, let's just keep going, and it just kind of snowballed from there. Or if we take it back, did you have a desire to do these types of things earlier on, and when you got that opportunity, was it something that you were really aiming for, and it kind of just happened? Which one was it? Do you remember?
More along the lines of it just sort of happened.
Okay.
I knew once I decided that I was going to go into education and become a phys ed teacher. I think it's the responsibility of um, phys ed educators to engage as many students as you possibly can in extracurricular activities, right? So you have to give back, and I would I really wanted to give back, and so early on in my teaching career, not only did I coach basketball, but I also coached there was a softball team there, and
Nice.
I helped coach track and cross country, and so it. But basketball, after I got involved, was really the one that I fell in love with, and the experiences at Churchill sort of whetted my appetite for it. And then once I got into Oak Park and started coaching there, just the excellence that you're surrounded with, right? Randy running one of the best programs ever, just and he was an inspiration, right? And forced me to if I'm going to be involved in it, I better do a good job.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
he was such a good mentor, and so is Darren Klapik. Like Darren came over and coached with Randy, and I sat in on so many of their practices just to learn, right? Because I didn't have that background of knowledge that so many of the other coaches had because they were coached by over a number of years. So I was playing catch up right from the start, and I was fortunate that those guys were so accepting of me hanging around their practices.
That's pretty
Um,
cool. That's pretty cool. So
yeah,
you just drop in and just sit there, take notes, or just watch? Like, what was? What did you do?
That's exactly it. Just watch and try to listen and learn as much as you possibly can, and not just running, picking up drills, but why are you running the drills? What
Mm,
are you trying to accomplish in it? How do you hold the kids' attention for the whole time? And I wasn't very good at it at the start, right? And went through some tough times, and um, but learn from not only them but also the people that I coached against. When I was in church at Churchill, I got uh, second year of coaching basketball. Well, on Tuesday we got to go into Kelvin and play the Clippers, led by Tiny Fox.
yeah, yeah,
And then on Thursday, oh, here comes St. John's and Bill Wedlake, right? So, so it was humbling then, and but those guys were accepting, and that's a lesson that I really learned from them. It doesn't matter who you're coaching against; they deserve your respect, right? And
yeah.
those guys showed me some respect, even though I had no idea what I was doing, but they made me feel comfortable, and that really stuck out for me. And that's part of the reason I got hooked into the basketball community. And
Mm,
then it wasn't any kind of forward thinking on my part. It was just rolling with the events, right? It's just whatever happened, just had to figure out how to make it the best of it, right?
yeah, yeah, for sure. You know what I really like what you said there, Murray, was and it stood out to me because, I'm thinking in my experience and with the people that you mentioned is the level of respect like that. And again, I'm not around the coaching game enough anymore to know how that is now. But I do know there was a time when I was that I don't know if that existed anymore, where there was almost a level of disrespect that was built into for some of these younger new coaches. But I found that some of the older coaches, especially the people you mentioned, like there is a level of class and respect that's extended just to everyone, to the craft. Like if you're a coach, it's a discipline. You're the other coach. I don't care how much you know or don't know. I'm going to be respectful to you. And I just love that was something that you remember as being a pivotal part of enhancing your experience and staying part of the community. So you mentioned Coach Chisano as well. What are some other maybe lessons that you learned from Coach Chisano or some of the other coaches or other mentors, maybe in some of those early years or even later on that you think are super important, or maybe some things that you've adopted into your own coaching style?
I think one of the most important things is um, from watching those people, and obviously with Randy also, is the idea that you have to be yourself. Um, I sat in with Randy and Darren, and tried to emulate them a little bit, but it didn't work, right? Because I'm not them. And
Yes.
the lessons I learned from them as far as basketball and the X's and O's and all of that you can take with you. And all of us coaches are thieves, right? We take
Of
from
course.
others, right? So you take those ideas, but then you have to be yourself in delivering it, right?
Mm,
And that is once I became more comfortable in my own skin at basketball, coaching basketball, I became a better coach, right? I was better able to listen to the athletes and get their feedback and be comfortable with accepting their feedback. Some of it a lot of it is very positive, but some of it is
yeah.
it makes you question what you're doing, or makes you think about what you're doing, and
Hmm.
so once you become more comfortable with yourself and be yourself, I think that's when I was able to move in the right direction, be more successful, not just in the wins and losses, but also in just dealing with the athletes. And
Yes.
so being yourself is really the most important thing that I learned from those people.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's super important. Like being genuine by being yourself, because then
Yes.
it allows you to. You hear that the term thrown around. What's it called? Oh, I can't even think of it right now. Where you feel disingenuous. I forget what the term is, but But when you're in alignment, like, hey, this is who I am and I understand what I'm doing, when you do things, you feel confident in doing them. And that's actually displayed outwardly, right? People can see this person is comfortable with who they are. And as a result of
Right.
that,
Yeah.
I trust them more, right? And so, yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
no, it's big time. So then when we're thinking about your time at Oak Park here, I opened up the the conversations. Been coaching for this many times. You won 7 titles, seven, which is insane. That last three-peat obviously, but even just before that, like you already won a bunch. So there's been a lot of winning throughout your time there. What are some of the key principles that you've established during your time at Oak Park, in your coaching, in the program, that you felt were the things that led you to be so successful?
Um, Probably the thing that we were noted for in our program was our ability to um, well, becoming disciplined was really important, right? And that discipline within how you approach the game was super important. Everybody has their roles, and
Mm,
some students, some of our athletes were really good athletes, but their role on the team wasn't what they
of course.
wanted, and you have to make sure that everybody understands it. Whatever your role on the team is, it's super important. And I talk to our kids all the time. You might be on the floor for 2 minutes during the game, but those 2 minutes are so vitally important, right? Um, those your performance in practices where we're asking you to work just as hard as the people who are going to be on the floor for most of the game. You got to make them better. That's part of your role, and your reward for that is going to be very evident in how we perform. And if you accept that role and really bust your butt in practice, yeah, you're going to get that opportunity, and you might unseat those kids who are starting ahead of you. So that was one of the biggest things is again it comes down to respecting the kids who you have on your team and the roles that they play, and so again it comes down to that discipline. It's hard for those kids to come into the gym every day and not get rewarded on game day, but in terms of playing, but you can never thank them enough for what they did. So them coming in and being disciplined and working hard and doing all that stuff. Um, I think that really got us going in the right direction. And then
Mm,
once you have some success, you can build on the success. It's a little bit easier, right? You're not always building the program up from the ground roots. So that's what once we got it going, the program built on itself, and uh, we were so fortunate to have the success that we did.
mm.
Um, you get great kids and who are willing to work hard, and you try to do the best by them. And we were fortunate to get some pretty good results.
Yeah, pretty good. It's an understatement, I
Yeah,
think, in this
yeah,
case. So you were there. So it took you over. So 1998 was your first title, and then you
yeah,
had been coaching mid to late 80s, correct?
right.
So, call it over 13, 14 years before you actually got that first one in 1998. Had Oak Park won any titles before that 1998 title, or was that the first one on the
No,
women's
that
side?
was the first one. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
So,
So take me to
well,
that.
for the first one and for the girls program.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, for sure, for sure. So then, what do you remember about that first one?
Um, it
Who you
was
guys play? Like, what do you remember? Just give me the highlights.
what well we had this great group of kids who were in grade 12. Really bright kids, Andrea Wilkie and Emily Rimmer and uh, Brenna Smith. These kids were super smart and good athletes, and it was it, they were just a pleasure to be with. And then we had this group come up from JV, which included Jennifer Parisian, who was might have been the best player I've ever coached. Margot Clues, we had um, um, Marsha Murdoch, all these kids, and they just blended together really well. And of course, Glenn was the big roadblock. Of course, Brian had a bunch of great kids, and we played them a number of times during the year. And then all of a sudden, and this is back in 1998, and we moved into our house on March 18th of 1998, which was also the day of the quarterfinals for the provincials. So got up in the morning all day, moved houses, and then all of a sudden at 6 o'clock, with a bunch of people here still trying to move, I say, I gotta go, I got a game. And so we went down. It was down to Daniel Mack. Showed up there, and um, of course, Andrea Wilkie, and Jen Parisian both pick up 2 fouls in the first half. And we're playing St. Mary's, and they were pretty good. They had Anna Juniak and Jessica McDonald, and they were a top team. And so kids, again, those kids who I was talking about earlier, who didn't play as much as the starters, they came through in that first half, kept us in the game. And then we started the second half of the game, and Jen Parisian scored 18 points in 4 minutes to start the
Whoa.
the third quarter. And so all of a sudden now we move into the final four. And that what a thrill. Like I had never been there, been to lots of Final Four games and watched and said, I want to get there one day. I want to get there one day. And so then all of a sudden we advanced on, played Vincent Massey in the semifinal, got down, and then Jen hit about five or six threes in the second half, and we ended up advancing to the final. Played Brian's team at Glenlawn, and it's back before the shot clock. And if you've ever watched Brian's teams back then, he was
Oh yeah.
so controlled and patient.
Oh
And
man.
sure enough, they win the tip. They take a minute, right? A full minute to get a shot off. We get the rebound, breakout, turn the ball over right away within 4 seconds. They're back on defense for another minute, and it just dragged on. But we ended up, yeah, pulling out ahead, hanging on, winning, and it was just unbelievable experience, right? Those kids who were those really um, kids who obviously busted their butts every day in practice, got rewarded for all the work, and it was just the smiles, and that I'll always remember that, and the kids coming over and being genuinely thrilled at what we accomplished, and yeah, that'll always stick out in my mind forever. Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. Was that at UVM, UW? Where was the final held?
UW.
UW.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. I'm sure it was packed and quite the atmosphere.
Oh, it was. It really was. And whenever you play Glenlawn, they always bring out the big crowds. So we're
Oh
always
yeah.
second favorite in those games. But
Yeah.
but it was just and to win the first one against a legend, right?
Yep.
Brian is one of those great people you run into in your life, and he's been so influential in basketball. So to win against him, and again the graciousness he displayed
Yes.
at the end of it, and how complimentary he was. And you're going, well, you're a guy I look up with to so much, and it was a thrill to get the best of him that day.
Mm,
And but in losing, he still taught lessons, right,
yeah.
about how to handle it and be gracious, and yeah,
Yeah.
he's such a good man.
For sure, for sure. So I'm a Glenlawn grad, so I was there,
Right? Yeah.
yeah. So I know I know Mr. Kornberger quite well, and you mentioned he was very patient. So us being obviously at the school, and we didn't. Our coach and our playing style was not so patient. Just we want to run up and score, and I do remember the pre-shot clock eras, and those who know uh, Mr. Kornberger know that what he would call was he'd say outs, 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 and outs was just like they would go four corners kind of thing, and they would like just kind of burn clock, and then they would take you just get tired, then they would like score right.
Yeah.
That was the thing, and obviously later on people I remember a little aside here about Coach Kornberger, but I remember people later on being like, oh, he can't win once they have a shot clock. Obviously that wasn't the case. But I do remember that, and we didn't like it as even though we're watching, like, come on, you guys are so good, just play basketball, don't burn the clock. But you'd always have that outs play. So I know exactly what you're talking about when you say he was
Yeah.
very patient, very controlled, but he really was. But I hope if Coach Kornberger, if you're listening right now, I really hope to get you on. He's I've had interactions with him obviously at school where he would, I'm not obviously on the women's team. I'm on the guys team. He'd bring me over and talk to me and like show me stuff and just a great basketball. I put him in the grass basketball personality that there's like
Oh,
coaches, but he's a personality. Like there's a persona as a person that he's almost like stands out in his coaching style. So that was your first win
yeah.
was against Coach Kornberger.
Yeah. And just a quick note on Brian. He what he does um is so inspirational. Like he'll grab the not grab, he'll pull aside a kid from the other
Yeah.
team and just speak so with such respect to them and talk to them about the
Hmm.
strength of their game or how much he admires what they're doing. And that was something that I adopted
Mm.
as I went through and tried to praise as many kids as you can, right?
Mm.
Because they're out there, they're working hard,
Yeah.
you have to appreciate what they're going through also, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that they deserve to be respected. And it's not necessarily the best players, right? The stars of the team. It's those kids those grinders who do it. I love those kids who just go out there and they're not looking for glory. They're just out there doing the
Yeah.
job. Settings.
Yeah.
Well, but the one year that I was played, right? My three strengths were running the floor, setting screens, and rebounding, right? And
Nice.
so a total grinder.
I love it. I
So
love
I
it. But
appreciate those
it's
kids.
but that's what you're speaking to is what you talked about earlier, which is so important in your program is, that the term of being a star in your role, right? If you can just like there's nothing stopping you from rebounding. Like you may not always be able to score. That's hard, right? You need the ball for that.
Yeah,
You don't need the ball to do rebounding, boxing out, going just chasing. You do not need the ball for that. You just go get it.
yeah,
So every single time you can make an effort at doing that, but you can't make an effort at scoring every time you don't have the ball, right? And so there's certain things like playing defense, setting good screens, running the floor. You can do that every time, right?
yeah.
And so that's that like being a star in your role. I think that's what you're kind of talking to is you see those people who are grinders. You appreciate that as a coach because you need those people to actually be successful.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I love that. I love it. So that was your first championship.
Yeah.
What now again, doesn't have to be a championship, but I just want to know kind of maybe what are some of your most memorable moments as a coach during your time at Oak Park? And I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be about what's on the floor, it could be off the floor, but what are some of those things that stand out to you about your time there that are important and special to you?
There um there's certain games that stick out. You just can't forget them. We were playing in the conference championship at Silver Heights Collegiate back in 1997, I think it was
Okay.
97. Right about then, and we had a pretty decent team. We were playing John Taylor, and we were trailed the whole game. We but we were within three, and we had a timeout, and we had 5 seconds left, and we actually, excuse me, this is 2000. Sorry, I went the wrong way. So the year 2000, and we had one timeout, so we called a timeout, and we had a player, Lisa Engel, who we knew they were going to deny the ball. She was their best 3-point shooter. She was one kid who on the team they had to deny. But we also had this a big kid. Her name is Lauren Whitburn, and she was a 6'1" kid who um, came over from, she was from a military family. They came over from Germany, and I got the opportunity to repay. I talked to you about my first day at Oak Park. Well, her first week at Oak Park was very similar, and
Mm.
on Friday afternoon we sat down in the forum and we talked it out, and she's got to know her and it made her feel more comfortable. And then so she played for her team, and so we had 5 seconds left, and thinking about who can we get to shoot a three. They're not going to let Lisa have it. Well, Lauren and I had spent many lunch hours in the gym, and we played 21 from the 3-point line, right? And she never shot a 3-point shot her entire high school career, but we needed somebody to do it. So we ran a pin down screen for her. She popped out to the 3-point line in the corner, catches the ball, turns, nothing but net, right? So we're going crazy. We forced the game into overtime. We pulled away, and we won. And it was such a cool moment for her to step up and do that. And then talking to Laurie Shire, the official from for many years, and he goes like, I can't believe you took that shot, and I explained the situation. It's our best option behind Lisa, and you just develop that trust. But watching her shot at lunch hour, even though she had never taken one in a game, she nothing but net, and
Wow.
so it always stuck out. And Lauren, unfortunately passed away. She was in a car accident between
Mm.
Thunder Bay and here, and she passed away. But I fondly remember her, and just I, I love the fact that she was able to do that, and I love the fact that I'm able to give her a little shout out here, and um, just how much she stuck out, not just for that shot, but as the person. So
Mm.
that's one of the true memories I have
Yeah.
of basketball, right? And it would have been awesome, but it makes it that much more special with knowing what the future held for her now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting those moments that you spend that are kind of like unofficial moments, like you're shooting, you're playing 21 at lunch,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and like lunch ball and stuff like that. Like I think those and like that's the thing that gave you the confidence. Had you not even been there, like say you were not that teacher that was in the gym like that, you would have never known to like, even if she was shooting on her own, you probably would have never known. And
No,
it's those
absolutely
moments,
not.
right? You
Yeah.
probably developed a little bit, and you're like, nah, I've seen her. She can do it. I know. Let's go. Like,
Yeah.
and she knows that you know that and so you're like, all right. And that's a testament to some of those moments.
Yeah.
In like outside of what's required, right? There's nothing that requires you to hang out and shoot with the kids at lunchtime or open up the gym or do any of those things. But those are some of the specialist moments at times that you can have with the players.
Absolutely. And from your time at Glen Lawn, the gym was always open in the
Of
morning.
course.
It was
Of course.
open at lunch hour as much as
Mm-hmm.
possible. And the yeah, those and I again, Randy was a big influence. Also, our principal, Dr. Ed Green, who took over for Ed Husak, he was a big proponent of the gym being the heart of the school. If
Mm.
it's a vibrant gym, it's a vibrant school.
Yep.
And the phys ed department of Oak Park, we always made the effort of trying to make sure that the gym was being used 100% of the time. Right. The more people that were in there, the better the school was. So
Yeah, yeah. That's and I again, like you mentioned, Glen Lawn absolutely was open as much as possible. I remember when I transferred to Glen Lawn, but I was at Jean Sauvé before, and they would close down. I mean, my first year there they did, but then for whatever reason, I don't know, it didn't. There was no teacher that would wanted to do it in tenth
oh,
grade, and the gym was closed, and it was like a funeral. Like for the people who, because before you go in there, it's a great time. People are playing sports over there. You got some floor hockey, you got some half court basketball here, and it's a great time, right? Everyone's sweating, they're having a good time, laughing. And then you close the gym down and like, what do you do? Okay, like people are walking around like just getting into trouble. And
Yeah,
like that's such a huge thing. And I know that the success, and you mentioned a little bit of the admin there, there's a lot of the success has to be given to the fact that the admin not only like allowed it, they pushed it, they encouraged it, they wanted it, and they understood that. And that's something that gets overlooked quite often is, you remember Coach Casano, but like not as many people, at least know that it's the admin and the people that set that environment up so that you can actually do those things, right? And it's a really big. I'm happy you shouted out the people who are like allowing it to happen, right? And want it to happen.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, super important. Um, so obviously you're at Oak Park for many, many, many years. You seven titles. The last one 2019, and then I think we were talking offline. You retired in 2022, is what I said, right?
Right.
I believe in the intro there. So, um, tell me a little bit about how that was. Like, I mean, did you know that you were retiring in 22? Did you make a last minute decision? Uh, how did all that come about? And yeah, tell me a little bit about that transition, kind of stepping away from something that you were so familiar with that essentially was a huge part of your life.
Yeah, it was getting you knew you were getting towards the end of the end of your career, right? It's you just feel it. And what happened was we won it when we were lucky enough to win those three in a row. The
Mhm.
next year we were pretty good. And uh we were preparing for the provincials, right? Of course, this is February of March of 2020, and
Mhm.
all of a sudden here comes the pandemic, and things are shut down. And um, it was interesting. We were preparing for we were ranked number 5. We were going to go in. We're going to play Sisler if we get by our first round game, which was going to be against Kelvin. So we prepare for Kelvin, and it was a Thursday, and we are going to play them on Friday. And so we finish up our practice. The kids go in and get changed, and while they're in the change room, I got a text from MHSAA that provincials were canceled. Everything was being canceled already, so you
Mhm.
figured there was a good chance of it.
Yeah.
And then it just so you have to break it to the kids, and they were disappointed, obviously. The next year was canceled, and then in 20 yeah the so that's 2021. Yeah, September 2021, I had my hip replaced.
Mm.
And so I couldn't coach that year. I came back in January, and the team was already up and going, and so just left them alone. And then I ended up teaching to the end of the year. And during that last semester, you knew it was time. I couldn't do what I my expectation of a high school phys ed teacher was. I couldn't put the time in that I used to, and couldn't bring the energy. And the kids deserved more. So we made the decision to retire. But as I mentioned before, we talked. I wasn't ready to do nothing.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
still wanted to do something. Um, so I ended up working the halftime the last couple of years, but it wasn't any kind of a overall plan. I'm going to retire at this point.
Mm.
It was you felt it, and it was
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
The only thing that disappointed me, one of the biggest thing that disappointed me was I didn't know my last game at Oak Park was my last game,
Yeah.
and that always bothered, and it still bothers me to this time. Appropriately enough, we lost it. Right, I lost the first game I coached. I lost the last game I coached, but I really didn't know that my last game was my last game, and we lost a tough one. Lost in the last couple of minutes to Daniel Mack, and it hurt. And
Mm.
but now it hurts even more when you look back at it and say, "Oh, I wish I had known." Right? Just to
Yeah.
appreciate, and it doesn't matter that we win or loss, but just to appreciate the fact that you were able
Yeah.
to coach in that game. And
Hmm.
yeah, so
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't know if it's a blessing or if it's a curse, but um, does it make me appreciate it more, or does it make me
Yeah.
appreciate it less? I don't know. I
Yeah.
wish I had known though. I wish I had known.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's um that's interesting. The pandemic kind of I mean, yeah, you had no choice. You didn't know. And I mean, in some cases,
No.
those were some like players' last games as well, right? A lot of people
Yeah,
maybe last
absolutely.
opportunity. Yeah, that was a little bit of a shock
Yeah.
to everyone. I'm gonna ask you this question, even though you might not answer it, but I have to ask. Okay, so
Okay.
you have seven provincial championships, and so something that often gets talked about in basketball spaces is, this team versus that team. Like, on paper, you hear this in the NBA a lot or whatever other sports. This was the greatest team. Um, so, and again, this doesn't have to be the team you like the most or anything like that. So just on paper, based on your experience coaching these teams, if we put all seven teams into a tournament playing each other, and they have the version of you that was the coach at the time, right? So like everything's realistic. It's almost like a video game. Who would you have? What year would you have coming out on top?
Ooh,
So it's a tough question. I know.
that is one
I
tough
had to
question.
ask it though. Like I had
They're
to.
all
Like
going to
this is
be winners.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
no, I gotta, I have to admit, like, um, the quality of players I've been able to coach have been unbelievable.
Mm.
Um, so I have so much respect for each of those teams. I mean, there are a couple teams that stick out. 2013, right? We went undefeated, which was win 33 games in a row. That was
So
quite an experience. Uh, there's a reason we won 33 in a row. We sent five kids to U Sport
yeah,
and
yeah,
one kid down to play NCAA,
yeah,
right? So you got six kids who are went on to play post secondary, and obviously that was a pretty good team.
yeah, yeah.
And then the first of the three-peat teams was really a special team. Um, the grade 12s in that year, we had three of them who played um, 3 years of varsity basketball. So they joined us in when they were in grade 10. So
Oh
Deidre
wow.
Bartlett, Jessica Jessica Dick, and Annika Weber. The three of them came up, and we were really shorthanded when they were in grade 10. They came up and they played so well. And we went to the final four that year. And the next year when they were in grade 11, we lost in the final. No, excuse me. We went to the final and lost when they were in grade 10. We went to the final four when they were in grade 11. And then in grade 12, we were also joined by three more grade 10s, which
Oh wow.
were Lauren Bartlett, who
Yeah.
played in grade 9, um, Emily Johnson, and Claire Signatovich. And so those three, plus Deidre, plus Jessica, went on and played a combined, I think it was 22 years of U Sport, right? So
Whoa.
they all played at least four years. A couple of them, Claire's just finishing up her fifth year out at U Alberta, and those kids, those two teams stick out just from the quality of
Yeah, yeah,
of of players that you
yeah,
have. So,
yeah, yeah.
but all seven of the teams were very special. Like,
Of course, of
and
course.
they were all populated by great
Of
players.
course, of course.
Yeah,
Again, it's not always about like the talent and everything like that. And there's going to be moments and stuff like that.
yeah,
But so you'd have those two teams in the finals, and whoever, those would be
yeah.
okay. I have to ask them, like,
But
you've coached so many good teams, and like, so I'm like, well, who are the most talented? So this is my way of asking you to say
well,
who are
I'm gonna be in
the
trouble
most
because
talented?
the 2004 team was pretty darn good, and
Yeah.
our leader was on that team was Holly Kitchen, and
Mm,
Holly
yeah.
came back, and she is such a vital part in the success we had towards the end of the year, end of my career, and Holly and I worked together for 10 years,
Okay.
and each of those years we went to the Final Four.
Oh,
Right.
wow.
So yeah, we won four championships coaching together. We lost in three finals, and we just had such a special run, and so much of it is due to the influence that Holly brought.
Hmm.
I mean, we had great group of players the whole time, but she helped bring out the best in those kids, and
Yeah.
yeah, she's a special coach. I'll tell you,
I
special
love
person
that.
too.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that because shout out to your assistants. I mean, those assistants are so valuable in this
Oh,
whole process, right? You as the head coach can only do so much, and when you have that other person there that's gonna, help keep you on your toes, keep you thinking, give you more options. Sometimes, you're like, I wasn't
yeah.
even thinking about that. Has a different another set of eyes out there. So important. So I'm really happy that you were able to shout her out. But it is a great opportunity to talk about how now you're an assistant coach. And now
Oh
your
man.
job is you're now taking a different seat. So you're still coaching, you move on from Oak Park, but you're now assistant coaching at the University of Winnipeg at the U Sport level. So why did you decide to do that? What was that transition like? How did it all come about?
Well, back when I retired, I was done. I was done. Like I figured my basketball career is over, and now I just get to be a fan. And then we were up at our cottage, and I got a phone call from Alyssa Cox, who had just been named the um, head coach at U of W to take over for Tanya McKay. And Alyssa, well, she was playing at U of W for those 5 years that she played. She was also a part-time assistant coach with us. She came
Mm,
back to Oak Park for all 5 years, and so we always remained pretty close. And so I got this phone call. I thought she was just phoning to tell me that she got the
yeah.
job, and I was so excited for her. And then she asked if I would be interested in helping out. And again, it was a change in the mindset because I was done. All right.
Mm,
I was sure my basketball career is over. And so I took a couple days and talked it over with Terry, and we hummed and hawed about it. And then I decided to give it a shot, and it's been amazing. The first year I was so out of my it's going back to the start of my
I
basketball
was
career. I
gonna
was
say, yeah,
so out of my depth. And not only that, we had Kiana Giles, we had Razel
yeah,
Ginto, we had
yeah,
Robin Belanger, who you just talked to.
yeah.
Um just and Julia Szykowski came over, and now I'm
Hmm.
forgetting somebody, and I apologize. I'll think of it in a second. But these kids that I coached against in high school and then have went on and had illustrious careers at the youth sport and coming in. And Anna Kernahan, of course, is
Yeah, yeah.
the other one. And I got to admit, I was intimidated about being in
Mm,
there, right? Those kids are um, such great great players. And Alyssa, my role with the team is I don't run drills.
mm,
I I'm in Alyssa's ear. I talk to the
mm.
kids one. So it's a great role for me. I don't know if I'm comfortable running drills anymore, but I'm comfortable being in the gym and giving feedback
Mhm.
and trying to analyze a little bit. Alyssa is tremendous. Of course, I'm a little bit biased because of my relationship with her, but
Yeah.
sitting back as a coach, right, who's been around for a while, like she is such a phenomenal teacher of the game. Um, Evan, her husband, who is I've known since he was 15 years old. He was an Oak Park grad, right?
Mhm.
Uh, he's excellent at breaking down stuff and analyzing the game. And then this year, now Robin has joined us as a coach full time. Megan Noonan has come in, and she's amazing. So it's been such a treat to be involved. And I used to go to those games and on Friday and Saturday night and sat up on the stand and say, I wonder what it's like down there. And now I'm getting to live it, and it is fun. It is fun. It's challenging, and uh, yeah, I'm so thankful that I got this opportunity.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So are you, I mean, this is year three of the experience, right?
That's
Yeah,
correct.
yeah, and you've been, and it sounds like the coaching staff is growing as well. Are you mainly just for the home stuff? Did you ever travel as well? Like, is your role completely full time with them as far as your ability to show up at practices and all the games?
Yeah, more or less it's full time. So
Okay,
the last couple of years, the first year I traveled now and then, but the last couple of years I've traveled all the time, which is
got it.
kind of a neat experience. Not very
Yeah.
glamorous, right? You're in the hotel, you're in the
Oh yeah,
gym, you're breaking
yeah.
down
Oh
film,
yeah,
you're trying to make sure the kids have been fed,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's,
you
oh
you
yeah,
live the
oh
life.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's what is so cool though. Shout out to Alyssa, who I've interviewed her way before, but I think she might be due for another one on the podcast. But first, one of the first calls she made was like, "Look," and she's smart, and that's the thing because she's as talented as she is. She got the job, so she's talented. But she was like a fresh face, like she's new, and so how smart of it is her to say, well, who do I want on my coaching staff? Well, who just recently retired? Oh, my former
Yeah.
coach, who I've been, and it's such a great move because now, although she's new, she has someone who's lived life, has the life experience that's in her ear, and now she can, learn from you, but then also just like really focus on the basketball side and have someone who's actually been through kind of like the grueling part of just life, right? Interacting with thousands of people and like all those life reps that you have. So that's such a cool thing, and it's super cool to hear that you're enjoying it because it's like almost like a full circle, right? You're an assistant coach for someone that you coached, and
Yeah.
you're the old guy, but your assistant. It's really really cool, really cool.
It is
Um,
absolutely.
so
Thanks.
you so. I mean, no pressure on this, but like obviously, this is no one's going to hold you to this. But is this something that you foresee yourself doing for like a little bit longer, or do you like you were really enjoying it and hey, you'll just do this until you just don't want to anymore? Is like what's your sounds like you're loving it.
I am loving it, and I just take it like honestly, I'll just take it day by day and season by
Mm-hmm.
season and see how life what life circumstances are. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but boy, am I ever fortunate to have been offered this opportunity. What a great way
Yeah. Yeah.
to close down your career. I'm not going to be doing anything else. I'm not out there looking for another youth
Yeah.
sport job. I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
get to enjoy this moment and in time, and it has been awesome. And it's so
Yeah.
so. I I couldn't have asked for anything better to what to have a former player
Mm-hmm.
who we've stayed in touch and um, you talk I've learned so much from her. She's because she's such a good teacher. She was a good teacher when of the game when she came back and worked with us at Oak Park, and you just saw that it was she had that special touch, and it's neat to be part of it and to watch her grow. And it's it's a tough thing. uh I don't know if I would want to coach for a living. I enjoyed coaching as a hobby, but I don't
Yeah.
know if I would cut out to be do it for a living.
It's a different animal for sure. For
Yeah,
sure.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. No, I love to hear that. It's a nice way to be retired, I guess is nice. Is a great way to put it. You're retired, but you're coaching at the
Yeah,
highest level with no personal pressure on yourself, and all you got to do is give. I'll just give everything I
yeah,
got, and
exactly.
it's a win-win, right?
I I I talked to her to Alyssa and also the other coaches. I say it one of the biggest things about the assistant role is I sleep better, right?
That's so true.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
laughed out
I
of experience. I've been the assistant. The head goes, man, do you sleep better as an assistant? It's great. Just
yeah,
give, and yeah,
absolutely.
that's well said. Well said. Well, on that note, we're coming close to the end here. As you know, since you're a listener, I always like to end with some advice. And since you're still coaching now, you've coached at various levels. You've coached talented players. You've coached for a long time. You've had a lot of success. You obviously faced a lot of other people who are legends. You're someone who clearly learns from other people. I'll put it this way: if you were sitting in front of a room of young coaches, right? The Alyssa when she was younger, right? You're there, you have that opportunity. They say, "Hey, we have Coach Murray Brown, there's all his accolades. He's been coaching for a long time. And you're there to give, you pass off your advice. Man, we all know that you can't, you can say 10 things and like people might take one. And so with that understanding, what would be one, two, or even three things that you want those people who are listening to you talk to walk out of that room and remember and take with them into their coaching journey or just their journey with basketball?
Um, to realize that it truly is a journey,
Mm,
right? And I can use myself as an example of this is that it's not easy. It's hard work, and you got to be willing to put in the hard work, and you have to have um, the resilience to deal with the heartache and the that comes with coaching. Um, I often I used to tell my kids, unless you're willing to have your heart broken, you're
mm,
not investing enough into the game,
wow.
right? So
Yeah.
we've we've all lost those tough games. Somebody hits
Hmm.
a miracle shot at the buzzer, and you got to deal with that, and you got to be willing to have your heart broken and come back the next day or the
Mm,
next season and invest in what you're doing. So that's the biggest thing, and I always think that if the, at the end of it, if you're not willing to have your heart broken, you're not putting enough into it, right? So be
mm,
willing to invest and deal with those heartaches.
yeah.
The other thing, as I talked about it earlier, is learning to be you. And that's very much important. And I became, as I mentioned earlier, I became a better coach once I became comfortable with myself as a coach.
Mm,
And so learn from others, take from others. Everything's out there to be shared. Make the game better, right? But deliver it in your own way. Be yourself in the way that you are going to coach. And the last thing is, and it's always been really important to me, is just honoring your family,
mm,
because they give. It doesn't matter what stage you are in your life. It might be a young coach and your parents, right? They're invested in what you do. Um, um, my family has sacrificed a lot for to allow me to pursue what I really enjoy, and if if I'm gonna miss that time with them, I better do the best darn job I can do and be the best I can for not just them, but also the families of the players that are with you. They're really invested in it. So just honoring your family. I just had a uh, quick sit down with Rhea Ginto. We were out in Calgary, and we had just finished playing, and we had played against Mount Royal, and my family was out for a dinner, and they sent me a picture of them out for a dinner, and I showed it to her. I said, "This is why we have to put our best in every day, right?
mm,
To honor those people, because you're missing out on a lot of stuff, and they're missing out on your presence, and so that family's always been incredibly important to me. And if I'm going to miss time with them, I better do a good job. And it's not the wins or losses. That's not what it's about. It's just about giving your all to the the people you're with. And so that would be my advice is just honor your family by doing the best job you can do.
yeah. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Those are very, very three pieces of very unique advice. I love the one about if you're not willing to have your heart broken. That one,
Oh yeah.
that's good. I don't know if you stole that from someone or that's from whatever, but man, that you're absolutely right? Because that's like you see a lot of people hedging their bets, or if I don't try too hard, then I can always say I didn't try too hard. And so, it's if I don't put all that effort in, I can't really fail because I didn't try my hardest. The people are
Right.
scared. They're scared. And like, yeah, that's so true. It's so true. Those three were so perfect, Murray. I really appreciate those pieces of advice. I think those were probably the first that's new. Like not, you hear some people say things. Oh yeah, I've heard that one. I think those three are new. And I really appreciate you taking the time. I mean, we've had a nice little talk here. I think we've pushed past an hour. So I know it's good because I was looking down the clock. I'm like, oh my goodness, I think we're going long here. So I appreciate you taking the time. And I think it's people like you who are in the coaching community who have the mindset that you do is always appreciated, because I'm sure I could find thousands of people who have great things to say about you, just like you said about Coach Cassano, and just how modest you are, right? Being one of the most winning coaches, and still you're like, oh, I don't know if I was, up there. And I think again, that just goes a long way to show that, you're really doing it for the right reasons. And the last three pieces of advice are perfect, right? Do it for your family was a wonderful thing. So I just appreciate you taking the time, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you so much for doing this, and I really love the podcast and hearing from the others that are involved, and it's a great thing that you guys are doing, and so I appreciate your time and asking me to be on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, you take care.
You also.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Darcy.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Please like, subscribe, follow, and share this series, and reach out to us with your comments on the show. Thanks again for joining us.